I'm not gonna lie, dude. I don't care if it's Waltz or Bashir. I like both. I'm happy with either. As long as it is not Shapiro, Buttigieg. I don't think it's going to be Pritzker anyway, so I'm not even talking about that. But like, I like Pritzker as well, obviously, as you guys know. But as long as it's not Buttigieg, Shapiro, or Mark Kelly, I'm
race where Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to announce her running mate as soon as today. Now, the latest CBS News poll shows Harris virtually tied with former President Trump in the battleground states and within the margin of error nationwide, which is a big improvement where President Biden was when he left the race. He was 5 points behind at that time. Weijia Zhang is at the White House with more on this part of the story. Weijia, the numbers look very encouraging for the Democrats, but it is still very, very early in this race. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Gail. Good morning to everybody. It sure is. But our CBS News poll shows that enthusiasm to vote is popping, particularly among black voters. And Vice President Harris wants to grow that excitement with her VP pick. Aides say she wanted to use every last moment to decide since she didn't have much time to begin with. And as soon as she does and announces, she and her pick for VP will hit the campaign trail. On Sunday, Vice President Harris's Washington home was buzzing as she interviewed at least 3 top contenders in person to be her running mate. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Governor of Pennsylvania Josh Shapiro, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear are also said to be in the mix.
I'll tell you, my favorite's Andy Beshear from Kentucky.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain on Face the Nation.
go, baby. Me and him, we're locked in together. Hey, listen. That's the GOAT speaking, okay? Mike was right. Wait, what do you mean? He said his favorite is Beshear, and he likes Waltz too. He says he likes Waltz and Beshear. He says Waltz and Beshear. Did he not? Did I misunderstand him? No, Sean likes Waltz and Beshear. I like Waltz and Beshear. Mike doesn't like Beshear as much, but it doesn't matter.
I'm from Kentucky.
United Auto Workers to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear are also said to be in the mix.
I'll tell you, my favorite's Andy Beshear from Kentucky.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain on Face the Nation.
I mean, the man stood with us, on the picket line.
Unlike most of his competitors, Governor Beshear does not come from a battleground state, but insists he can appeal to voters in both parties.
I come from a state where you have to cross the aisle, where we put being Kentuckians above being Democrats or Republicans.
Other VP hopefuls are using the airwaves to audition, too. Pritzker touted his accomplishments in a new video.
There's no better place to see the change possible under Democratic leadership.
Whoever Harris picks is scheduled to campaign with her tomorrow in Philadelphia, where Mayor Sherrell Parker posted this Friday on social media, supporting a Harris-Shapiro ticket, along with this video.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I don't care if it's Waltz or Beshear. I like both. I'm happy with either. As long as it is not Shapiro, Buttigieg. I don't think it's gonna be Pritzker anyway, so I'm not even talking about that. But like, I like Pritzker as well, obviously, as you guys know. But as long as it's not Buttigieg, Shapiro, or Mark Kelly, I'm locked in. Okay. Since Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is officially being reported as a favorite to become VP pick for Kamala Harris, here is a picture from his DUI arrest where he was going 95 on a 55. He then lied to the police about being deaf in an attempt to avoid his arrest. Oh my God, he's so sick. Oh, that's so awesome. Why don't you like Kelly? I don't like Mark Kelly because he was one of the votes that the PRO Act in the Senate amongst the Democratic Party. Also, he's like pretty conservative on a lot of stuff. It's because he's bald. How dare you? You know I'm a literal bald fetishist. Like, this is the worst place to come. This is the worst place to come and land an accusation such as that one. I fetishize the balds. DUI equals blue Florida. Yeah, finally, dude. A real Floridian. Yeah, for the record, I saw the Reuters post. I don't know if it's anywhere around here or not, but the Reuters post said that it was down to Waltz or Shapiro. You're gonna Mikey hates Beshear. Yeah, I know. I know he does. I trust his instincts. He might be right on it. I might be totally wrong on it. You know what I mean? But I like him.
Can't think of a better partner sparking speculation that she leaked the choice, which she later denied.
I really like, I like Waltz more than I did starting, though, because, like, the more I hear him speak, the more I like him. I mean, he's a teacher. You could tell. I think, like, background-wise, that's, like, significantly better than prosecutor, you know, or DA. We already have a prosecutor on the ticket, right? Like, he's great. He's definitely very good at talking about issues. I mean, the weird stuff obviously played super well, super well.
Pennsylvania, Harris and her running mate will visit 6 more battleground states this week. Our CBS News poll shows Harris and Trump statistically tied in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona.
Wait, what is this?
Hey, everybody. Tim here. 11 days till the
millennial pause. Well, the boomer pause.
Hey, everybody. Tim here. 11 days till the election, but it's my pro tip of the day out on the road. I got to show you this. This right here is the headlight harness on a 2014 Ford Edge. Ford, this is unacceptable. It burned out hot on the connector. So for $7.99 at Napa Auto Parts here in the city, you can replace this. Just clip off the back, use some shrink wrap connectors on there, tape it back together and put it back in. It's about a 5-minute fix and you're back on the road safe and sound. So pro tip of the day. Second one is get out and vote for One Minnesota. Get out and let's take this state in a direction we know it needs to go. Go vote. Hey, everybody. Tim here. 11 days till the election, but it's my pro tip of the day out on the road. I got to show you this. This right here.
Come on, guy. I mean, he's charming. Charming as
with Harris 2 points ahead in Nevada and Trump with an edge in Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. Trump also has an advantage when it comes to personal finances and the potential impact of his policies.
On the one hand, you have a radical left freak.
In Georgia, Trump campaigned in the same arena Harris did days earlier and seized on last employment.
If Harris wins this election, you will quickly have a Kamala economic crash. You're going to have a crash.
Voters may not get the chance to see Harris and Trump face off on the debate stage. He has pulled out of a debate on ABC in September, claiming when he agreed, Joe Biden was his opponent. The Harris team says he's simply scared. Trump has proposed a debate on Fox News instead. Vlad.
All right, Ouija. Thank you very much, Ouija. Appreciate it.
So let's bring in NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki over at the big board. Steve, what impacts could a running mate have on the ticket? What are you looking at?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is the home state effect, the idea of a home state effect. When you hear the name Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, every 4 years when there's a Veep stakes, it seems we talk about, hey, they're going to put this person on to get this state. That rarely seems to be the move, but would it be different this year? A couple ways of looking at this. Just as a reminder, Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes. Of all the core battleground states, this has the most electoral votes. Pennsylvania does. So just when you put those electoral college road to 270 puzzle pieces together, this one looms particularly large. And I don't think I have to remind anybody, but the margin here was just 80,000 votes for Joe Biden over Donald Trump there, barely 1 point in 2020. And of course, if you went back to 2016, Donald Trump won this state, part of that very narrow path to the presidency he carved then. And of course, if you look down at Arizona, another state that Biden won in 2020, even closer, just over 10,000 votes, 0.3 of 1 point. Again, that was a flip from a Trump win by 3.5 points back in 2016. So the question with the Shapiro or a Kelly in states like that is that's not much of a difference to make there potentially. Could they make a decisive difference? So what we've got here, let's call this up for you here. Take a second to explain this, but these are the vice presidential nominees, the running mates for Democrats going back about 30, 32 years right here. And what we're comparing is we're looking at, so for instance, look at Tim Kaine in 2016. Remember, Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's running mate. In the election before 2016, before Kaine went on the ticket, versus 2016, the national popular vote moved 2 points in the Republicans' direction. Comparatively, though, Virginia, when Kaine was on the ticket.
Wait, what? I don't get it. But wait, Tim Kaine in the membrane didn't pop off like that? I love chatters being like, who the f is Tim Kaine? Excuse me, Tim Kaine in the membrane. Tim Kaine is also kind of based on Israel too, which is shocking. Tim Kaine was like one of the first like establishment Democrats that was out there being like, yo, this Israel needs to be cut out. Like, this is crazy.
Ticket did not move 2 points in the Republicans' direction. It actually moved a point in the Democrats' direction. So it was a little bit at odds, Virginia was, with the national trend. It was more Democratic. So does that automatically mean Kane produced that difference? Well, no. There's state-specific factors. There's long-term demographic trends. We've seen a blue trend in Virginia, but you start to see a pattern. Look, Delaware, it was not in play, but in the 2008 election, it swung 10 points. Nationally, it swung 10 points towards the Democrats. Delaware, with Biden on Obama's ticket, swung 17 points. So, is there a home state effect somewhere in there? You go back to Al Gore in 1992. It's getting sort of ancient history here, but the popular vote swung 13 points nationally in the Democrats' favor in 92. And, of course, when Bill Clinton picked Al Gore, Tennessee actually was still a blue state and a Democratic state. We didn't call them blue states, but it went even more. So we do see somewhat of a trend, exactly what that number would add up to, because, again, there's so many other factors that go into this. But you see it in, you didn't quite see it with Harris, but you see it so often, you do wonder in a state like Arizona or a state like Pennsylvania, given that we're talking maybe about a point either way, could that point be accounted for by something like we're looking at here?
Well, and let's talk about the two candidates there. Josh Shapiro's approval ratings in Pennsylvania and Senator Kelly's approval ratings in Arizona. Who has the bigger impact in their state?
Tough to say, because here's the other wild card. We'll go back here, see if we can call up the Pennsylvania results from 2022. Going to take me 1 second. We're going to get the governor's race from 2022, and then
Fetterman came out critical of Josh Shapiro. Bro, where's Central Committee? Where's Central Committee when you need them? That's just internal Pennsylvania politics. They've actively despised one another for some time. We need Michael from Pennsylvania to explain to the chatters that is just like not necessarily meaningful.
There it is. Okay, so now remember the circumstances in Pennsylvania. Shapiro won his race in Pennsylvania by a much bigger margin than Kelly won his race in Arizona, though there are two things that you keep in mind when you look at this. Number one, in governor's races in general, I don't care what state you're talking about, we talk always about the polarization, people voting more and more straight ticket, all Democratic, all Republican. We see a little bit more flux in statewide races for governor than we do in federal races like U.S. Senate. So that might be a factor here. Also keep in mind, Doug Mastriano, the Republican nominee in Pennsylvania, was somebody a lot of Republican leaders did not want as their nominee. Things he had said about the 2020 election, about January 6th. He was very tightly aligned with Trump on all of the January 6th rhetoric. So was he a particularly poor fit here? How much of this is Shapiro's strength? How much of this was Mastriano's weakness? Of course.
Come on. That difference is not anywhere near in the down ballot. It's 100 P. Mastriano beat up, dude. Mike is here. That's it. Michael, I said that the Josh Shapiro Fetterman drama has nothing to do with Israel at all, and is actively a byproduct of them like internally beefing in Pennsylvania politics. Is this yes or no, correct or incorrect? Since you are the Pennsylvania guy. After all, you are from Pennsylvania. But I think the chatter was joking anyway when he said it's about Israel. Federbitch is actually good on this. It was a fight over commuting sentences. Yeah. I think this was back before Federbitch had the brain disease. But I do think Cenk is wrong when he says, oh, it's because of Israel. No, it's Cenk, my uncle, who is like fantasizing, hallucinating about a position that doesn't exist. Yeah. Fetterman skeptical over Shapiro's VP due to pardons, board tension. Yeah, the back and forth, I think that Fetterbitch had with Shapiro is before this, and maybe it's just like he still remembers that and still has issues with Shapiro, because Shapiro is seemingly a very conniving and very self-interested party. Cenk has been wrong on so much recently. Your uncle's on the go. I know, but he was so right on one thing. And that thing happens to be like a very important thing. I mean, he was right as on the top of the hour ad break, coming at the top of every hour. Like, he's right. When he says that, like, at the top of the hour, HasanAbi will serve you a 3-minute ad break. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $6 or for free. He's right about that. You want me to jump on? I can easily debunk his electoral strength. Sure. Anyway, here's a 3-minute ad break now. Guys, this is Michael from Pennsylvania. He is from Pennsylvania. Anyway, what was the rating on that, boss? I don't know. Oh, I was talking about Jank. What the fuck was I talking about? The Shapiro murder cover-up stories, the time bomb in the news. Oh, he was right about one thing that was pretty consequential, and that was to get Biden out because he's old. He's right about that, and that was pretty. I mean, that was something that we all agreed on. But still, he was right about that, and he fucking his money where his mouth is. He like ran for president. What's up, Mike? Here is Michael from Pennsylvania, also known as Central_Committee, ladies and gentlemen. Michael in the building.
What's up?
What's happening?
If you want, I can turn this camera on. If you don't,
it's all good. You don't have to get dolled up for us.
I don't know how to get dolled up.
All right. Well, Michael, you're a Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah.
Through and through. It's in your blood. I won't hold that against you.
Okay.
But you have been...
my mom is from Manor, Pennsylvania. My dad is from Yardley, Pennsylvania. So, and those are the, like, if you don't know what that means, that's like Western PA and Eastern PA.
So you got it locked down. You got the whole state locked down.
Yeah, I got the whole... I've lived in all parts of the state. I'm in Pennsylvania.
Hell yeah. You got Pennsylvania and you got Philly in the corner. So...
Exactly.
So here's the thing. You've been ringing the alarm bells about Josh Shapiro for quite some time, and that is because you're an anti-Semite. Okay, have a good one.
Okay, besides that,
next question.
It's also a couple other things. But I'm from Pennsylvania. What do you expect? Like, we're not going to be anti-Semitic? Of course we are. No, this is jokes. These are jokes.
Yeah.
Obviously, we condemn anti-Semitism. None of us are anti-Semitic.
No,
we love the Jewish people.
We all literally door knocked for a Jewish man, but also simultaneously are anti-Semitic.
Well, see, you have to understand that anti-Semitism is when you criticize Israel. If you hate Jews, it's fine as long as you support Israel. I learned this from Ben Shapiro, who has very similar takes on Israel to Josh Shapiro.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Josh Shapiro's perspective is like, he's a liberal Zionist now. He wasn't before, but he is at the very least in the way that he presents himself, even before October 7 and certainly after October 7. He's been a liberal Zionist, which in many respects obviously is still far too aggressive. There are points where he has actually gone beyond liberal Zionism, where he has talked about college campus protesters against genocide, where he's compared them to the KKK, which is completely unacceptable. But I don't think Israel is like the major problem here. In my estimation, I think that there's like significant issues beyond that. But I wanted to hear what your opinions
can I
are.
debunk some of what your uncle was saying about Shapiro, like how he was the progressive choice? One of the things he said was like, he took money away from some of these hedge funds. Actually, it's completely the opposite of what he's saying. Shapiro took money from some Wall Streeters and gave it to his friends. Now, if you don't know what Vanguard is, Chad, it's one of the largest fund creators, fund managers, money managers in the world. And it's headquartered in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, which is a 10-minute drive from Shapiro's house. And so there's like 20,000 employees to the Vanguard funds. He was basically giving money to the people that directly donate to him, like the Pennsylvania hedge fund guys, basically. So it's not that he was standing up to Wall Street. He was just giving money to the local fund. How do I know this? I ran for office in Montgomery County in 2014 when he was a Montgomery County commissioner. He endorsed me. Like, I know Josh Shapiro. I've known him for over a decade. He's always been
You're so old, bro. Holy shit. You said 2014.
Yeah, I know. But like he's been part of the AIPAC mafia. This is a part of Pennsylvania where AIPAC is like gets a lot of money and is like one of its like hardcore supporter regions is right there in Josh Shapiro's hometown. He is he worked for Israel's like embassy. Like this guy is not just like, pro-Israel. He's like if you thought Joe Biden was too anti-Israel, then you would upgrade to Josh Shapiro. I think it's actually a pretty critical
You think point. Josh Shapiro is as pro-Israel as Joe Biden is in the way that he communicates? No, not how he is in his in his past.
I mean, now it's starting to become less popular to be full blown, as you can't be as ghoulish,
No, but I'm saying, but like Joe Biden has still got brainworms. Him and Fetterman are like out of control.
Yeah, true. I'm loath to give him any credit because this is like the critical point. I guess she made her decision already, so I should stop. But in my view, I think it would be a bad sign. And the reason why I say that is because we didn't have a primary. We didn't get a chance to kind of vet the candidates, get them to make promises, and go through the course of competitive elections and have them talk about policies. So this VP is really our only chance. And it kind of signals what kind of president Kamala Harris is going to be. Is she going to be a center-left, pragmatist who tries to get popular policies passed, like
General Secretary Joseph Robinette Biden?
Yeah. Is she going to get Build Back Better done that, Shapiro couldn't do? If the best person to do that would be Walz, because he's beloved in Capitol Hill. He could work from the right wing of the party all the way to the left of the party. Everyone has glowing praise to say. He got all those bills passed in Minnesota, so he could say, look, I got it done. It's not so scary. Now I'm vice president. He's got the political acumen. He has the track record. He's spoken well. I mean, listen, he's pro-Israel. I'm not trying to lie to anybody and say he's not pro-Israel, but like, look at the way he's talked about the protesters and then uncommitted versus the way Shapiro did.
The most significant statement that Waltz ever made that was like, it literally cut through the entirety of the political discourse at the time, like a hot knife through butter, was when he said, the uncommitted people have spoken. This is an important issue. He went on MSNBC and he said that is unheard of. At a time when like the Biden campaign was like actively avoiding talking about that, the media was actively avoiding talking about that. That was huge.
And like, I can criticize, listen, as I said before, this is a compromise for me and you. We are picking someone to our right, firmly to our right, who's got moderate stuff at his record, who has stuff we disagree with. But like, if you just look at at the way he speaks about it, it's clear he is a break from the way Biden is going, whereas Shapiro is more of the same, in my view.
Yeah. Waltz is entirely care about the Dem-controlled state Congress and court system. Any halfway progressive would do the same in his shoes. You're so wrong about that. You're literally so insanely wrong when you're talking to a guy who lives in California, who has a Democratic governor who does the exact opposite of what you just mentioned. No, Waltz had a slim majority. He had a one-person majority, and they dunked on every single Republican. They put their nutsack. That's true. The state legislature did carry. Okay, that is true. But like, the Democratic Party in Minnesota literally was posterizing. They actively pushed for a lot of comprehensive legislative changes that somehow did in prior years, at least, like existed in places like California already, but they literally did that with a 1-seat majority.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you don't think there are centrist Dems in Minnesota? Like, you don't think there are people that are taking bribes and trying to obstruct? Of course. Like, this is basic politics. And the other thing is, he signed it. Like, if he was opposed to these things, he could have like found excuses.
No, he could have done the iron veto, like the iron pen that Gavin slams around on a regular basis. He's Mr. Veto. He's Mr. Steal Your Girl and Mr. fucking Steal Your Bill.
Well, this is the thing. Like, our politics are much closer to Minnesota than they are to California nationwide. America is a slightly Democratic-leaning country. That's like Minnesota. And what did he do when he had that chance? He passed a bunch of bills. Yeah. And this is something that you and I have been talking about for 5 years at this point, where we're just like, I'd rather have a narrow majority of people that want to get stuff done than 2/3 of centrists who don't want to get anything done. And 100%. And Walz shows that path, which is why he's so hopeful as opposed to, Shapiro.
And he's also actively liked. I mean, look, one of the reasons why I like Bashir was because despite the like deep red Kentucky state legislature, like he is the most popular Democratic congressperson in the country and is the second most popular governor, I believe, in the country across the board now. So like, for me, I thought that was good, but like ultimately I like Waltz a lot. I've covered him and the Democratic Party in Minnesota quite extensively. And I think that is the method, like for sure. I really like that. So here's why I think it's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Because the Democratic Party sucks. I really hope. I would be shocked if they land on the correct position again right after the real mamala behind the scenes, Nancy Pelosi, forced the Democratic Party to actually behave like a European style parliamentary party. You know what I mean? Like
well,
an actual.
She endorsed Waltz, right?
She did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like Nancy Pelosi got a big dub swapping out Biden. If she can also get a second big dub putting Waltz into power, I'm gonna write Nancy Pelosi in.
Well,
as the candidate.
Listen, like Nancy Pelosi she's not one of us.
She's
but
not.
I will say this about her. If you go and read Ryan Grimm's book, which is We've Got People, I really recommend it. So I'm shouting out someone else's stuff, but he talks about like repealing DOMA and the Healthcare Act under Obama. Obama wanted to give up. It was Nancy Pelosi that got Obamacare passed.
Yeah,
in fact, there was a public option coming out of the House. Obama, the public option in the Senate.
Yeah, no,
so
she's a demon. She is definitely a legislative demon. She is, I think, like the closest we have to Mitch McConnell in our party. Like a competent administrator, competent whip, and someone who is like genuinely invested in the future of the Democratic Party, even though we obviously have ideological differences and on a lot of issues that matter. Like very serious ideological differences. Like it's obvious that she cares more about the future of the party and like certain progressive policies. She's after all the same person that like simultaneously dunked on Ilhan Omar in instances where she was in the crosshairs of the entirety of the Republican Party in a very bad way, but also put her on the
but like Shapiro, condemned her and threw her under the bus.
Yeah, but like that's what I was trying to say. Like there's a push and pull with Nancy Pelosi, who has actively put like young progressive members of the squad into cabinet seats where she absolutely did not need to do that and could have just like cast them aside. And I think Hakeem Jeffries, even though he's from Nancy Pelosi's camp, will probably be worse to the progressive wing of the party than Nancy Pelosi will. He has underlying resentment towards the progressive wing that Nancy Pelosi was able to overlook.
Well, like she comes from a different time when where there wasn't this like always online obsession, the 2016, like she recognizes something that a lot of blue MAGA people don't, which is the Democratic Party needs the left and it needs young people and it needs progressives. It's one thing to say they're irrelevant and they don't vote online in a Twitter fight, but when you're talking about like getting the 50% plus one in an election, you want every voter you can get, and young people lean Democratic. So you have to throw them a bone or two. That's what she understands. That's why she was a better leader, because she would corral people and she would understand you can't just on the left because you're going to depress our own turnout. You can't do that. You'll end up losing.
Yeah.
So for your own power, you have to act in a, parliamentary manner. You have to have a coalition. That's what I don't think the Gen X, leaders understand. That's what I'm really concerned about with Hakeem. I want to say one thing about Josh Shapiro's electability, if I could.
Go ahead.
People are talking about how amazing his performance was, but if you go to the previous gubernatorial election, the Democrat did better by 2 points. So, like, Governor Wolf is the real electable. If you want a former Pennsylvania governor, go get Governor Wolf off the bench and run him as VP, because he did 2 points better than Shapiro, and Shapiro had a much weaker candidate. So what the people even talking about? Like, this is one of those things that just blows my mind.
Also, he ran against his like electoral performance has to be matched up against who he was against. Like Doug Mastriano was a genuinely unelectable. Like
he was triaged.
It was also a like an instance, one of those rare moments where the Democratic Party's like gamble hits. Like it was a Pied Piper strategy that they conducted in Pennsylvania, and it hit big for Josh Shapiro. Like,
it did. But the thing is, though, Josh was trying to like knifing other people. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's one of those. He's kind of a scumbag. Like, there's always a fight to try to make a coordinated campaign where like every Democrat works with each other, and we kind of say like, hey, let's leave aside our differences and we'll work together. And if I have a volunteer knocking doors, why don't they drop off your stuff too? You know what I mean? You try to pull all in the same direction. He's always the type of candidate who is siloing himself off and is saying all that. I don't want to be associated with your stuff. I need to win. I don't want to piss off people that don't like you by endorsing you. He's that kind of guy. And he's always allied himself. Like, oh man, I have even more. You want me to get personal and talk about my personal experiences? If you want, I will.
Sure.
So in 2018, I was running a campaign for state senate. I was the political director and finance director for the state senate campaign. We were running against a member of Republican leadership, and we kept getting stonewalled from the Montgomery County Mafia, as they are known, and led by Josh Shapiro. He's the golden boy of a guy, former Democratic chair. His name is Marcel Groen, who had a major scandal. This is all deep in the woods. But for people who don't know anything about Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro is Satan incarnate. He hates the left. He's a demon on Israel. Like, no, you're crazy if you think that he's equivalent to a random Democrat. No, like he represents the worst of the worst. And when I was running this campaign, we were like blocked by this guy. We couldn't figure out why he was getting so much. Why our candidate? We had really good polls. We were winning in the polls if we got our campaign out there. We were only down a couple points in like the top line polls, and it turns out we were getting blocked by these people. And fast forward to now, this we lost the race by less than a point. So they kept a member of Republican leadership because we got stonewalled by the Democratic Party because he was too progressive. He supported single payer. And this is important to bring up because the guy that we lost to, his name is Pat Brown. He ended up gerrymandering his seat to make it more Republican. Well, then he got primaried from the right by like a lunatic, and he lost his primary in the next election. And what immediately happened? He got hired by Josh Shapiro to be an advisor with another Republican by the name of Mike Verb, who's where the sexual harassment scandal comes from. Mike Verb is another Republican he hired with Pat Brown. And he was sexually harassing all the staff, and they covered it up. And then they finally made a payout with government money. Like, this is one of the many scandals that are going to come out from Josh Shapiro.
There's also the not prosecuting the murder cover-up story.
Oh, the murder cover-up. Yeah, his donors. Yeah, the family of donors who, the 20 stab wounds, and then he had to recuse himself way later. And it's going to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
No, I think he recused himself after they brought forward the family. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the family brought forward his own conflict of interest because of his own personal involvement with the family of the murderer, alleged murderer. Sorry.
Well, Krasner was represented the family or something, so he had to recuse himself out of it. And then it went to Shapiro, and Shapiro was getting money from the family because they're all prominent Philly lawyers and associated with Shapiro, obviously. And
family that was on site before the police was, family that was on site at the scene of the crime.
Yes,
the scene of the crime where the victim, whose death was not ruled a suicide originally, because the victim had 20 stab wounds, including to the back of her head.
This is exactly the type of stuff that's going to derail Harris's campaign. Yeah. If she picks Shapiro,
here's another angle.
The vibe so hard.
Here's another angle that will derail the Shapiro campaign. Here's another angle that will derail it. They are going to, of course, if Shapiro is picked, spend the next couple of months infighting with the left, depressing voter turnout, ruining their chances of winning Michigan by consistently saying, "Oh, the left is anti-Semitic. That's why they don't want Josh Shapiro." And not because Josh Shapiro has compared some of the potential Democratic Party voters that are actively participating in the anti-genocide protest to the KKK.
And it's just and the other thing is he's just profoundly unqualified at this point. I'm sorry, but 1 year as a governor and you're going to be president? What is this? This is crazy. Whereas Walz, the most senior enlisted man, he was a congressman. He was governor for 6 years and actually passed, as opposed to pushing for vouchers and tax cuts for corporations like Shapiro did. It's one of those things where it's crazy because people arguing in favor of Shapiro basically think they're better than you and that regular people are stupid. And they think, "Ooh, Pennsylvanians will vote for their governor, Herbert Derp." In reality, we're going to have a real campaign here, and that all these problems are going to be surfaced, and people are going to be thinking about these problems, and they're going to forget that he was governor of Pennsylvania. And his supposed positive approval rating is going to go down.
These problems that were also negligible and weren't really apparent or ever talked about when he was running against them, who was "I am the sword of Austriano." I'll never forget him picking up that QAnon sword, dude. That was, for me, I was this is insane. This is what I was all right, this is the most insane that American politics has been. That a guy who could potentially become the governor of Pennsylvania is like sitting at a fucking Civil War reenactor on the wrong side. And also on top of that is like actively and openly linking up with QAnon supporters. That was Doug Mastriano, Josh Shapiro's opponent at the time. So like people were not looking at any of this stuff. Whereas the Trump campaign will.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
I just said I linked you the two governor's races, 2018 and 2022. So if anybody's like, oh my God, Shapiro is some sort of he's like unbelievable. It's like, okay, he's unbelievable except the one prior election where he underperformed that. So like where he's not godlike or anything like that. It's just a ridiculous point that people are making. And it's like, no, not at all. Is he some sort of super strong contender? He is just, you know, he ran against someone weak. Yeah, and he had a huge advantage in money. It's silly.
So Yair Rosenberg says, shocking Shapiro revelations, voted to condemn UN resolution against Israeli settlements that Obama allowed to pass, participated in AIPAC conference, called Israel our truest and closest ally in the region with a commitment to the values and personal freedoms and liberties, yada, yada, yada. He's like trying to undermine and saying that like, Walz
is just as bad.
Yeah. So then this clever line that Walz and Shapiro are functionally the same on Israel is belied by the fact that this is what Adam Johnson responded with. According to the New York Times yesterday, Mr. Shapiro has emerged as the choice of the party's pro-Israel donors. So obviously pro-Israel donors don't agree. Are they also anti-Semitic?
Well, I mean, it's just, again, they think you're stupid. They're trying to play their like fake identity politics game. They do it with everybody who criticizes Israel. They go, oh, anti-Semitic. See how controversial they are? The people are calling them anti-Semitic. And it's like, what are they anti-Semitic for? Well, they criticized Israel. And if you don't believe that it should be an ethno state, then you don't care about Jewish lives. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking? So it's all the same Hezbollah bullshit. And whenever somebody says, oh yeah, they're the same, you know they're lying. I mean, people said the same thing about Harris and Bernie too. But now that Harris is the nominee, suddenly she's saying, I don't want to do single payer. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And it's because it wasn't a real belief or cause that she was fighting for. It was a political decision she was making. So this is the contrast between the two. You have somebody who has a long record of progressive change, has been relatively smart in how they've handled the Gaza conflict, versus a Israeli supporting extremist. Like, and it's an insult to your intelligence. You should be offended by people thinking you're this dumb. Like,
I do think that there is no fundamental, like, I mean, there is somewhat of a difference, but like, I think that Walz is going to be like pro-Palestine? No, I don't think so.
Ooh, Walz just pulled ahead in the prediction markets again.
Yeah, no, I know. I just I'm aware, and I hope that the Democratic Party, although I don't have a lot of confidence in them, will do the smart choice again, which is, you know, they will be performing above my expectations if they do engage in this in the smart way, in this, you know, because they already got one good move, which we were absolutely right on, and every single very smart, very intelligent Democratic Party loyalist analyst was absolutely wrong on. I said time and time again that of course people are going to be excited if it's not fucking Joe Biden, a person that most of the country understands is old as fuck. Like, that will be a dynamic candidate. It will greatly redefine the election. It will be a wonderful opportunity, especially if they drop it right after RNC. Every single thing I said happened.
It would be great to go with Walz.
Like, it would be great to go with Walz. You and
I were calling for Biden to drop out for like over a year, I think.
I mean, I said in 2019 that Biden was going to be a one-term president, and it's like ridiculous to drop the incumbent advantage that you would have in the re-election. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about it, it's because you and I actually watched Biden's speeches for the last 4 years, and very few other people did. So we knew that there's no fucking way he's going to be able to go up there in the debate and do well. And he was way worse than we all thought. Thank God everybody finally woke up. And clearly, you know, Harris has been way more popular. I think people really did just want to, they were tired of Biden and they were tired of Trump. But here's the thing, like, if she picks Walz, I just really want to underline why I'm such a big Walz head or Walz warrior right now. She'll have to defend all the policies that he passed, legalizing marijuana. She'll have to defend paid family sick leave. She'll have to defend all those issue after issue. She's going to have to, like, what are they going to say? Oh, that kind of stops her from going further right as well. And it makes him have to make the case for those left-wing policies.
And he's a really good communicator on those issues. Every time I hear him speak about that, like even on the weird front, I think that like a lot of people just like keep it at, oh, the Republicans are weird, and they don't just like follow through. Waltz, on the other hand, doesn't just say that the Republicans or the MAGA Republicans or Donald Trump specifically and these elected representatives are weird. He also then draws a distinction between those guys and the regular Republicans who are voters and whatnot, who also have the same interest that like every other American has, which is to feed their children, like to make it less costly to afford childcare. These are things that he is also proven. These are issues that he has proven to be successful on, issues that he recognizes Republicans also enjoy, despite the partisan polarization that occurs in the country on culture war issues. So I think that he would be great on that front. And you're absolutely right. Kamala Harris would not only have to defend those positions, but Kamala Harris would also be able to increase her. I'll use a more positive note. Kamala Harris would be able to beef up that she is a strong advocate for those positions, because some of those things, like the expansion of the child tax credit, is like obviously a fundamental part of her campaigning. And it's really important for them to really solidify that aspect of their campaign, because Republicans just lie. Like J.D. Vance has been going around, and Ben Shapiro and all these other like Republicans have been going around saying that the Democrats want to actually not give child tax credits, like not expand child tax credits, when it's like a pivotal piece of their legislative agenda in their reelection campaign. And it's one that was actually eviscerated by the Republican Party.
I just sent you a link of some of like the policies. Like, I know you covered this extensively at the time, and so did I. Like the so-called Minnesota miracle.
The legislative victories and codified abortion rights, background checks for private gun transfers, a red flag warning system to take guns from people deemed by a judge to be a threat to themselves or others, transgender right protections, ban conversion. These are the like a lot of the stuff that you're mentioning are like the social stuff that they got through. But there's also a lot of economic benefits as well, like paid family medical leave and sick leave. A brilliant way that I've heard Waltz talk about this, by the way, and this, I'm glazing him up a lot because the more I hear him, the more I like him. A brilliant way that he has talked about paid family medical leave and sick leave is from the aspect that, like, stupid Americans care about it from, like competitiveness for small businesses, where he'll say, listen, we did paid family medical leave and sick leave. Why? Because Best Buy, in comparison to the mom and pop shop, can offer paid family and medical leave and sick leave. Whereas now the mom and pop shop has that locked down because we offer it by the state. Sure, they pay like a little bit more into it, but now they can actually be competitive with a company like Best Buy, like a big company. Like small businesses can now thrive and be more competitive when they have loyalty to their own own workers, but simply cannot compete with these big, like massive chains. I think that's a really good way to communicate these policies.
They also did this isn't even everything. There was like 40 things. Like, that's the thing I try to underline.
This is a very small list. Yes.
This is like just a highlight list of some of the things. And it's like, I want to be on offense, on all these things as opposed to on defense. And I feel like Walz represents going on offense. Shapiro represents going on defense. And like, that's fundamentally the difference between the two. And like, I think you should always give people more credit for actually doing a thing than saying they support the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should never say, okay, well, this guy supports legalizing marijuana. This guy legalized it. He actually did it. That's a big gap. There's a big difference there. And we should reward people for actually doing the policies we want. And I think he represents that. Whereas Josh Shapiro represents, as I said, I personally don't like him from a long-term grudges that are based on policies and based on him capitulating to the right wing and him bringing in Republicans
For me, the school voucher is a non-starter. School voucher is a non-starter. If you're going to be the Democratic VP, you can't be cooking the fucking teachers unions. Like, that's completely unacceptable in terms of like the Democratic Party and like what their base of support comes from. It's like you're basically coming out as anti-union when you do that. There's no other. There's no other way to look at it.
It's beyond anti-union. It is like anti-egalitarian. It's like believing that some people's kids just don't deserve to learn.
Yeah. Also,
because,
Walt's
like it's actually really fucked.
Walt's not only a teacher but also very good on that issue as well. Like I've heard him talk about how he despises voucher programs. Again, very good at communicating that school choice narrative. As a matter of fact, is genuinely damaging, specifically to like rural areas. He had a 43-minute conversation with Ezra Klein.
Yeah, I watched that on my stream this morning.
Yeah, I think Ezra was like giving him a blowjob by the end of it because he was awesome.
The only time he sucked in that whole thing was when he was trying to defend Biden's dumbass bipartisan immigration policy, because he was talking about how important refugees are and shit, and then he was like, yeah, but we got to control our border. And it was like, oh my God.
I hate that. I hate that so much. And the Democratic Party entirely is cooked on that front.
They fucked themselves over so hard on immigration by doing that dumbass
so
ploy.
Bad. It's so fucking bad.
Because he used to have this like very uplifting thing, because he talks about the Somali refugees in Minnesota as like so important. He continually brings them up as like, you know, he's like this, they're part of us. They're, you know, I don't care whether they vote for me or not. And they've been so, you know, he makes the argument for America, the kind of America that we were all raised on, the propaganda of being a melting pot and everybody can come here. And like, that is why I think he's a good choice. You know, just coalition building won't piss us off. Like, I can tell you right now, if they pick Shapiro, I'm probably not voting for Harris. Like, I can't do it. I can't have the genocide defenders, you know, win. And
well, Kamala Harris is already. Let's see where she lands on the genocide defense. Okay,
I think she's bad, but she's also like, listen, this is copium. I want everybody to understand. I'm doing.
Everyone does
right
this
now.
thing where they like read the tea leaves in their whichever way that they think is the best way forward. Like, it's like Times of Israel writing an article being like, Kamala is an ally to Israel. And then you have people in this chat who are like, well, you know, she places the humanity of Palestinians at the forefront of her communications. It's like, I think everyone's just doing hopium.
I think right now you got to remember, Biden is still president. He's the one making all these decisions. And fundamentally, he's a little he's a little resentful asshole. I hate him so much. But so like anytime if Kamala comes in there and says, oh, you need to change policy on this, I'm the Democratic nominee, he's going to pound his little fist and go, I'm the president still. Shut up. I'm going to do what I want to do.
No.
So
I know that's going to happen.
Rock and a hard place in how she approaches that. Copium.
I agree with that. I mentioned that as well. It's a really, really annoying hurdle in front of everything else. But
yeah,
I've been saying this for a while. I said immigration for the Sun Belt and Gaza for the Rust Belt, and those are at least like on the messaging front things that she should either never talk about immigration, like just change the conversation, don't talk about immigration at all, or for the Rust Belt, definitely change the way you communicate. And I think it was a big misstep when she was like, yeah, these guys are so anti-Semitic. These protesters are so anti-Semitic. That's the first thing she did. But anyway, we'll see.
Those people that you like, yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime somebody's like, Hamas is going to get you and spray paints the Liberty Bell, like people, like you're obviously you're not speaking to middle America when you do that, you know, like you're, you know, and I don't criticize that. Go for it, because I understand the barbaric everybody needs to let out. They're killing an entire people. They're starving it. And the Democratic Party is endorsing that. And that is incredibly disgusting. So
I just don't think
criticizing them. I'm just saying.
I don't think that if you're running,
you're not getting anywhere with that.
If you're running for any Democratic position, you don't ever have to hand it to the Republicans. They don't run around fucking saying that like the Nazis showing up to their fucking rallies. And I'm not making a moral equivalence here. Okay, I'm not doing that at all, because there is none between dudes who's fucking spray paint that free Palestine or Hamas is going to get you or whatever are Nazis. No, I don't think so. That's fucking ridiculous. They have no say in any administration in comparison to how Nazis do write legislation, like Stephen Miller was writing white nativist immigration policies. So there's no equivalence there on any front. Having said that, however, despite the fact that Nazis and their fucking policies are almost one-to-one with the Republican Party on a lot of issues, whether it be communicating the Great Replacement shit or whether it be like drawing out white nativist anti-immigrant sentiment and writing legislation specifically on that front. You will never hear a Republican turn around and be like, I condemn these Nazis that, showed up to the protest. Trump did the exact opposite. He literally was like, there are very fine people on both sides. So no, it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to ever like take ownership over those people. Just don't talk about it or talk about what the actual issue is, which is that a war criminal that is actively engaging in a genocide came to America and shat on Americans exercising their First Amendment rights and demanded more money and got a standing ovation from the Republican Party. Half the Democratic Party wasn't there. I always think about this like carefully. I think that on the issue of Israel, you can draw domestic partisan. You can draw a domestic partisan battle, and that's what the Democrats should be doing. If they were smart, they would do that.
Yeah, I think that immigration, the main reason it's been such a bear is because the Democrats have constantly tried to tack right instead of building a structure that actually makes sense and sustainable and like examining it like adults. We know that there is an economic attractor for agricultural labor, for other forms of labor where people cross the border and work, and that's the history of the U.S. We've always had people that were going from Mexico and working in the U.S. and vice versa as well. That actually has gone the other way. So we should have a system that codifies that, makes it legal, doesn't force people to like move here permanently if they don't want to. And if they do, they can through a pathway of towards citizenship, through having, paying taxes by being good citizens. It's insane. It's not to say we shouldn't have any borders at all, because we need to do things like make sure people aren't being trafficked, make sure people aren't being, we aren't spreading agricultural pests or other things. There's issues that you want to check when people are crossing international lines. But that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about like, oh yeah, you have a valid asylum claim, but there's been too many valid asylum claims. We're going to send you back anyway. That's the so-called compromise. Like sending a rape victim back to their rapist. That's insane. That's abhorrent. And that's not what, nobody would really support that if they knew that's what it was. I think the vast majority of Americans are actually pro-immigration. They just want people to follow the rules. They just don't know what the rules are. Americans don't know that it's impossible to legally immigrate unless you're in these very narrow categories in this country. Like they think that you could go to one and stand in a line and get in and come into the country. You cannot. There is no line. There's no way to move here if you want to work here. You can't. So we need to create those systems and argue for them, and then implement them, and then stop sanctioning Cuba and Venezuela so that people are fleeing economic catastrophe that we caused. It's not very complicated.
This guy says, Hasan, drug uses in the U.S. Look at this. Southern states are bad. I think it's from illegal immigration personally. All right. Anyway, I got to tackle some of these other issues now, but thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. Michael from Pennsylvania, Central_Committee on Twitch.
7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Hell yeah.
If you need a morning guy, come watch.
All right. Bye.
See ya, brother.
My friend who said this. Wait, it's marijuana use? Oh no, you're talking about fentanyl, right? Cocaine use? Most heroin use, this is what they're talking about with deaths, is not even fucking southern states. And it's certainly not a consequence of fucking immigrants, brother. Immigrants do not traffic drugs. American citizens traffic drugs. Okay. Anyway, yes, I saw there's fucking cars outside of the residence. I saw it. We'll see what happens. Rolling Stone wrote an article. Trump got a free Cybertruck from streamer Aiden Ross. Is that legal? The controversial content creator known for platforming white supremacists in the past may have violated FEC rules on campaign contributions during a sycophantic live interview today.